You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show with your hosts, the Prophet, Rick Craig, the Bearded Wonder, Zane Paisley, and the Morning Star, William Huckabee.
And the Undisputed Wrestling Show is now.
Yes, it is now. We're back for another round of Undisputed Wrestling Show with your host, the Prophet, Rick Craig, and also Doc Thunderbeard himself. And I heard on TNA Wrestling this last week, gentlemen, that Eric Young is being referred to as the Bearded Terror. So the Bearded Terror, Zane Paisley, is with us this evening, and also the NWA Continental Champion himself, the Morning Star, Will Huckabee. Zane, how you doing, man?
I am doing well. Not much happened over this weekend as far as pro wrestling and us, so I don't know if we'll have much to talk about this week.
Pretty dull, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mr. Huckabee, I heard you just got off another podcast being interviewed yourself. How'd that go, Mr. Huck?
Oh, it went really good, man. Of course, talk about me and the title and stuff, and wrestling, and this podcast, actually. So, you know, it's a great weekend for wrestling, great weekend to be a wrestler or a wrestling fan.
And for those who were not aware, the Undisputed Wrestling Show, for the very first time, all three hosts were in the same room together. So we gathered in Fort Wayne, Indiana for Heroes and Legends Wrestling number 5, an outstanding fan fest. Had a good time there, but Zane and I got the opportunity to meet Will Huckabee, who made the venture all the way up from his home state of North Carolina just to be with us and help promote the show, and got in on some of the action himself. What was it like being in a ring in Indiana for finally, Will?
Oh, it felt so good. It was a great show, man. I had a great time.
I'll tell you what, and I wouldn't say this if I didn't truly 100% wholly believe in this. You were quite impressive. I enjoyed watching you, Huckabee. You actually have some good talent.
Well, I guess I should say thank you, I guess. I don't know if you thought I was going to come up there and stick the joint out or whatever, but as talented as I was equally impressed with you, the Prophet Rick Craig, as the manager of, Troy Miller, who actually made a return to being top rope Troy Miller this weekend.
It was definitely an interesting, entertaining weekend. By the way, before I forget, the Undisputed Wrestling Show is brought to you by the Angry Marks Podcast Network, your home for all that is pro wrestling and MMA and the very best in podcasting. Always tune in to Angry Marks Podcast Network. Great time again at Heroes and Legends. We got to see a lot of great talent there. The NWO was in the house. Kevin Nash, Big Sexy himself. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon was there, and X-Pac, 6, 1, 2, 3 Kid, whatever you want to call him, was there as well. We'll had a good time with them. Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner was there. Zane had a beer fest with Kevin Thorne. Winter, Katie Lee Birchhill was there. She was phenomenal. Just had a Hardcore Holly was also there. Shannon Moore. Just had a lot of great wrestling talent on the show, and it was just an enjoyable day. And of course, Drew Stills continues to be the Heroes and Legends champion, 950 some odd days now, and the Prophet led Troy Miller, the franchise, is your new cruiserweight champion. ZP, your assessment of Heroes and Legends?
It was a great time. You'd mentioned Kevin Thorne. He was brought over to Fort Wayne for our friends at Kayfabe Connection, which they do a great podcast, and we had a lot of fun. Do we have a caller on the line?
Yeah, it's Ian. Hello?
And who are we talking to this evening?
Hey, it's Ian.
Is it Axel Rotten?
It sure is.
Awesome. you know what? We have the Undisputed Wrestling Show, and what better thing to do than have the Undisputed King of Hardcore himself, Ian Rotten, joining the show. Ian, thanks for being here tonight. How's it going?
Oh, going all right. How's things going for you guys?
Oh, we can't complain. Just talking about our weekend up in Fort Wayne at the Big Fan Fest. Jason Maples and his Heroes and Legends. So we had a really good time this weekend. But
how'd that go?
It went pretty well. I mean, it was a really good show. Had a lot of entertaining matches. The quality of the matches were really, really high. Even Will Huckabee, our co-host, the NWA Continental Champion, got in on the action.
Well, that's good.
Ian, somebody you're familiar with, Congo Kong, he almost broke the ring. He took on Big Russ and those were two super heavyweights in there taking each other on. It was a great match.
I'm sure of it. I still to this day haven't figured out why the WWE has at least assigned Congo Kong to developmental. I understand the age is against him, but other than that, the guy is absolutely incredible in the ring.
Hey everybody, this Sunday, August the 2nd, the IWA has a big card, an I Quit match. Corporal Robinson's going to be taking on Joseph Schwartz. School of Hard Knocks, Mean Mitch Page taking on the Devil's Son, J.C. Rotten.
And a lot of people, I don't mean to cut you off, but a lot of people may not understand what the School of Hard Knocks is. Literally, this is a match asked for to me from one of my students. I brought Mitch Page in the business. And he literally asked me for this match. We had an incredible show last Saturday, also featuring the no rope barbed wire flaming ropes match between Corporal Robinson and John Wayne Murdoch. And in that match, my son, in that card, my son lost to Zodiac in a thumbtack coffin match. And the whole show was called IWA Presents Charlestown Freak Show. The whole show was carnival themed and crazy matches and things like that. And Mitch has taken it upon himself to ask me for this match, thinking that my son needs some toughening up, some tough love. So this is going to be a very interesting match, to say the least.
Well, you also got some other great matches on the show. The Iron Demon Shane Mercer is taking on the aforementioned the Monster Zodiac. Also a tryout show, Rejects, Reed, By God Bentley, and John Wayne Murdoch take on Taylor Hendricks and Josh Crow. Is that the Taylor Hendricks from TNA?
No, this guy has literally been presented to me several times as the Tennessee version of Ricochet. Right. He's coming in with some high praise and glory on him. So we're going to see about that. Ricochet, whatever else you want to call him, nowadays maybe one of the hottest independent wrestlers on the planet, and featured in New Japan Pro Wrestling, on Axe TV, all kinds of stuff like that. So we may have found another version of him out there in this version of Taylor Hendricks, but it's not the OVW TNA chick with all the right assets, but a high flying daredevil.
And how about a 2 out of 3 falls match, the 2014 Queen of the Death match? Randy West is taking on Thunder Kitty. And last, but certainly not least, the IWA World Title match, the champion Isaiah is taking on the undisputed King of Hardcore himself, Ian Rotten, for the championship.
It's been almost 10 years since I've wrestled for the IWA World Title, and Isaiah is one of the kids that started out in the old Kmart building for us some 19 years ago, sitting in the crowd. So now he has to find out whether he has the mustard or not in order to defend that title. against myself. And if I've counted right, if I could pull this off, I would be a 10-time IWA World Champion, which would make that I have the most title reigns. Which, considering it's my company, it probably would be the best thing for it.
You know, Zane and I had the pleasure of seeing Isaiah wrestle in Fishers a few months back, and he's got a lot of talent. So it'll be interesting to see how a complete contrast of styles between you two.
Well, you know, a lot of people, you know, want to put out that, you know, I am the undisputed king of hardcore wrestling, and they make that has to mean barbed wire, blood, guts, violence, you know, all that stuff. But I've always said that the definition of hardcore is what Terry Funk told me was hardcore wrestling, which is you wrestle the same in front of you do 3, 30, 300, 3,000, 30,000. It doesn't matter. You give it everything you got every time you're out there. And that's became the IWA way, to never mail it in, to never give anything less than 120%. And if you do so, you're not going to be in IWA Midsouth Wrestling very long. And Isaiah has grown up in that atmosphere. You know, and I know at 45 years of age, the longer this match goes, the more it benefits him. You know, he's got a lot less injuries. You know, a lot less broken bones, a lot less, you know, things gone wrong in matches than I have. So, you know, I'm going to try to take him out as early as I possibly can. You know, because the longer the match goes, the more I know it favors him. But, you know, for years upon years, I've called him my Carmel child. But sometimes you have to teach your children a lesson. And, you know, the lesson here may be that, you know, he can jump off all the ropes and do all these neat crazy moves and all this other stuff. But, professional wrestling still comes down to wrestling, you know, not high spots. And, you know, as a former amateur wrestler, I'm looking forward to taking him to the mat and see how he handles that.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show, and we are talking to the Undisputed King of Hardcore himself, Ian Rotten. And Ian, you know, a few weeks back we had the great pleasure of talking to your brother, Axel, and discussing, you know, how, I guess, you were trained in this business. He had nothing but awesome things to say about you, and that's why you ended up tag team partners with him. But what do you remember about the training under Axel and getting you going in this business, and how valuable was what he was teaching you?
Oh man, I mean,
in the long run, I guess.
Oh, Axel. As far as trainers and stuff are concerned, besides myself, there's not a whole lot of people out there that are like that anymore. Probably the first 3 years I was in the business, Axel took all my bookings, made sure, you know, my money was there, made sure, you know, I was booked as often as possible. You know, there's not a whole lot of trainers out there like Axel. Like I literally would call him 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and would be like, "Hey man, I got a question. I was thinking about this particular match, and this particular thing happened, and you know, what should you do there?" You know, and you know, he was always a class.
Half off and call me in the morning.
No, never. And when we got to Global. When we got to Global, Axel literally said to me, he said, "Hey man, I've taught you everything I can possibly teach you. If you're looking to learn more, if you're looking to go farther, you know, try to get somebody here to teach you something, you know, that I can't teach you." And I literally walked over to Black Bart and asked Black Bart if you know, I could sit down and listen to him, you know, week in and week out. And as he spit his dip out, he told me, you know, sure, no problem. You know, but that was when Axel's advice. You know, Axel knew, you know, he had taught me everything that he could possibly teach me. but he knew I had a thirst to learn more. And then when we got to ECW and became Funk's Few Good Men, and I got to sit down and listen to Terry Funk go over matches and do things that only the Funker can do, including promos and just how you carry yourself in a dressing room. That was a special happening for me. Later on, when Ty Gordon was running PWU, and I told Ty Gordon that I was 23 years old when I started in ECW. He called me a damn liar. I was like, yeah, I was 23 years old. A lot of people, don't realize that until now, that I was given a golden opportunity, in being in Global first, getting to learn from guys like Black Bart and Chris Adams and Iceman King Parsons and Kerry and Kevin Von Erich, guys like that don't get a whole lot of credit for being great performers, but they really were, like Gary Young and Billy Joe Travis, Eric Embry, and then I went to ECW and got to learn from guys like Terry Funk and Kevin Sullivan and Cactus Jack. So I mean, I learned really more about the outside part of the business than I ever did about actually performing in the ring. Really, Axel always steered me in the right direction for a long time, and me and him have had our ups and downs, but he is always going to be my brother from another mother. He is always going to be the person I look up to now and to this day. If I got something going on in IWA and I got a thought or I got an idea, I'm more than likely to dial that 443 area code and hit Axel Rotten up and say, hey, what do you think of this? And get his opinion on things, because I've always thought that Paulie missed the boat on using Axel's mind and abilities to talk with Joey Styles. Could have been in commentary and things like that, and Joey wouldn't have had to carry the show by himself because Axel's such a great talker. There's he reminds me a lot of Chris Jericho as far as the way he does things. As far as that rock and roll spirit that, how you doing tonight? And they both get it from Paul Stanley, Kiss, and there's a lot of people that, don't necessarily like Kiss's music, but then they see Kiss live for some reason or another, and they're like, oh my God, I'm absolutely in love with Kiss, and, literally Axel turned me on to that too. So I mean, me and Axel went to see the Revenge tour, I think like 11 times. It was like something ridiculous that we went to see that tour, including the Hammerjacks in Baltimore, an acoustic version of it, which was crazy enough as it is. But anybody wants to learn the business of professional wrestling, I highly recommend learning it from Axel Rotten, because many things that I push on today to young guys from, everybody from CM Punk to Tyler Black working as now Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, all that stuff. I've learned from Axel. I can't tell you how much work I just got in my early years just by taking my bag to a show and introducing myself to a promoter and saying, hey, somebody no-shows, I got my bag, but in the meanwhile, I'll be happy to put up your ring and put up your chairs and sell your merchandise or sell your concessions, whatever you need. I'm here to do, and if you can book me on your next show, I'd appreciate it. And all that was Axel's teaching.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show with Ian Rotten, and I'm going to make the tag to my brother in crime, the bearded terror, Zane Paisley.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you so much, Ian, for coming on our show this evening. I had the pleasure of seeing you a couple weeks ago on a Thursday night in New Albany, Indiana. Terry Harper presented a show where Jake the Snake and Vader were there, and it was kind of a cool show because it was a bunch of different promotions from that area all kind of coming together. Can you tell us how that came about?
Well, I mean, Terry literally came over to my house one day, and he was like, what do you think of this idea? And I said, man, I don't know if it's going to work because so many people are going to be worried about what their ego is going to do, you know. And like I said, IWA is we work hard no matter what. You know, we never mail it in, and Terry was like, well, if they want to go out there and do their thing and do it right, then we'll have this. If not, it won't happen. But literally, that show was a show for the fans. Between having a guy like Jake the Snake Robertson and a guy like Vader there, and then most of the people that were drawn to that show were already IWA fans. I think I can honestly say the loudest chant of the night was during our match, and it was an IWA chant, and I can say that with some pretty good positivity, to the point that OVW guys didn't want to go in after that. Because it just wasn't going to happen for them, and they knew that.
It was a 3 tag team, so 6 men basically, all out brawl. It was you and Corporal Robinson and versus the Vikings versus the Tryout Show Rejects, and you guys just fought all around that tiny area. And into the stands.
I got hit with a lawnmower. Dude, I got hit with a lawnmower in that match.
I was one of the guys in Zubaz over there, right by the lawnmower, and yeah, it was crazy. It was set up like the old In Your House pay-per-views. The stage was, and there was a lawnmower, and it had a blade. Luckily, I don't think that he gently turned it on before he hit you with it. But yes, there was a lawnmower being used.
But, Terry's whole thing that day was just to do something for the fans. And, he's a great wrestling fan, great concert promoter, but his whole thing was to do something for the fans, to give the fans something that they weren't going to see anywhere else. To see, all the local groups that were around here's talent, balled up into one show, and it really worked out for him. So place was jam packed, and everybody had a good time.
Yes. Well, and part of IWA Mid-South, the tradition has been the hardcore stuff. You also, for a long while, brought in a lot of technical wrestlers like Colt Cabana and most notably CM Punk. And Brian Danielson, the list goes on and on. What's been kind of the attitude of trying to get both of those types of things? Are you trying to appeal to all people, or what? Why was that philosophy instituted?
Well, back in the day when I was in ECW, that was Paul E's thing. He put on a complete show. Same show you saw Axel versus Ian Rotten, Public Enemy versus the Gangsters. You saw Too Cold Scorpio versus Eddie Guerrero, and Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit, or Chris Benoit versus Al Snow. So it was looking to give the people the gift of the total show. Not only to give you great technical wrestling, but give you the blood and guts, maybe even make you laugh, with guys like the Blue Meanie, Stevie Richards, things of that nature. But, that's always been my thought from day one of running a wrestling show, was to give everybody the total show.
Well, and you had mentioned earlier when we were talking about Congo Kong, about how he's not set up with WWE yet. I got to put over two people in IWA Midsouth that I think needs to be on national television. First one is your Queen of the Deathmatch, Randy West. She is amazing. She is just out there, crazy, great performer, and will do anything for the fans. And another one.
Well, she's not a diva. She's a broad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you know, one of your old buddies, Drake Younger, is now in NXT, and if you watch that program, he mainly referees the women's matches. Can you imagine her getting in there and mixing it up? You know, even with they've had tryout matches with Crazy Mary Dobson. Why hasn't Randy West been down there yet?
Well, you know, and I don't understand with Mary Dobson either. Mary Dobson's a young girl who can be molded into anything that they want her to be molded into. You know, and she's a pretty girl. So, you know, they could do practically anything they wanted to do with her. I have no idea with Randy. You know, she doesn't look like anything that's on TV. You know, I thought that was, you know, I thought that was Mickey Knuckles' niche forever, was, you know, she doesn't look like anything that's on TV. I thought that was Amazing Kong or Awesome Kong or whatever you want to call her. I thought that was her deal. You know, many times over, I think the WWE's problem is that everybody looks alike. Everybody's the same. You know, nowadays in wrestling, would Dick Murdoch or Dusty Rhodes even have a job? You know, with the way the WWE looks at things. You know, everybody's so bland. They're, you know, tattooed with you know, sage hair tattoos, tan, somewhat muscular, over muscular. You know, I mean, there's so much of the same old. You know, and girls like Randy West and Thunder Kitty, and you know, Thunder Kitty's a great throwback to the days of Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah. And she's a lot like that, literally. Outside the ring, you know, Thunder Kitty is, you know, a drink you under the table, you know, type of girl. You know, type of girl that, you know, you don't mess with. The drunker she gets, the meaner she gets. You know, I mean, she literally is a living embodiment of what Mae Young was. And Randy's a lot like that too. Hard hitting, smash mouth, you know, women's pro wrestling that, and maybe that's the problem, that it's pro wrestling instead of sports entertainment, you know, on both of them. You know, but Drake, you talk about Drake. Drake had a lot to do with the training of Thunder Kitty after she came from out west from California, to the Midwest. I teased her just the other night, I called her Drake Younger's little disappointment, because that's what that's what Homicide used to call Becky Bayless, was his little disappointment. And like, we were at IHOP and she looked down at the few people down the table and like looked at me like she was ready to kick my ass. You know, I was like, I was just kidding, relax, it was just a joke. You know, I mean, I have no idea other than the fact that they look unlike anything that is in current WWE. And don't get me wrong, like Becky Lynch, Rebecca Knox, I absolutely love her. Ric Flair's daughter, absolutely love her. Sasha Banks, absolutely love her. You know, I mean, you know, I think Nikki Bella in the last 5 years has came along huge margins, and as far as work ethic's concerned. It's almost like Daniel Bryan stuck his penis in her and made her a better talent. I mean, it's absolutely amazing how much better she's been. But her sister carries the title, which is really funny, you know. So, it's like, sometimes I don't think that they think outside the box, and then other times I think when they try to think outside the box, they grab the first thing that comes along. What's that guy, Rick Dempsey or whatever his name is? I don't think a whole lot of that guy. The guy that just did the pay-per-view with Rhino. I can't think of his name. But anyway, I don't think a whole lot of him. Say that again?
Roman Reigns?
No. They just did the NXT pay-per-view thing with him. Corbin.
Baron Corbin.
Baron, that guy. Like, I don't think a whole lot of him. They try to make him out to be like this monster, and he's really not that much of a bigger guy than a lot of wrestlers. So when they try to think outside the box, I think they just grab the first thing that comes to them instead of how many people that are talented people out there that they could grab.
Hey, Ian, I'm going to cut you off real quick because I know we're short on time with you, and I know Will's got some questions for you. But I did want to ask, I said that I was going to put over two of your guys, and I want you to talk briefly about a guy that I really like a lot, old school manager style, which you don't see these days. We've had him on the show, and I've seen him around a lot, Jason Saint. What do you have to say about him?
Jason is the type of guy that just absolutely loves the wrestling business. I mean, he loves the wrestling business. He loves to be a part of it. He sometimes doesn't get some things about it, but other times, he really grabs a hold of it with a fine-tooth comb and can go over it. So I just think it's more a case of more and more experience. As far as Jason's concerned. The more times he works with better talent, the more times he works with people that can teach him, the better he's going to get. He's just going to get better and better. And I'm being honest with you, Jason's done some stuff outside the wrestling ring that has pissed me off to no end. I literally have to explain some things to him because he is such a fan of professional wrestling. And that's where I come from, also, is I was such a fan of professional wrestling. I went to my first professional wrestling match when I was 4 years old. So from that time period on, I've been, a fan, I still remember my first main event I ever saw was Bruno Sammartino versus Stanley Hansen in a steel cage, at the old Baltimore Civic Center. My mother thought my father was crazy taking a 4-year-old to wrestling matches, but it worked out. But Jason's that type of person. He loves pro wrestling. He loves the theatrics of it, but he also loves the athleticism of it. So he understands sports entertainment, but not so much the pro wrestling side of it. If you can get my drift on that. But I think he could have a bright future in the business. I mean, I don't necessarily know, if there's a great amount of love for male managers in the business to make a whole lot of money. I don't know if there's room for Freddie Blassie, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Captain Lou Albano, or any of those guys anymore in the business. But if there is that room, then Jason has a spot.
The Undisputed Wrestling Show has Ian Rotten in the ring right now. We have Paul Moonshine joining us at the top of the hour. So now, climbing into the ring, the NWA Continental Champion. To get the wrestler's perspective, it's the Morning Star, William Huckabee.
Hey, Ian, thanks once again for being on the show. Hey, no problem. Anytime. I had a great time, and I just want to say one thing before I let you go.
Not letting us go yet, Ian.
No, we're not ready.
We're not letting go yet, Ian.
Well, I mean, I just want to put this out. I have probably been Axel Rotten's hardest critic. I have. People think I'm like this big drug addict. Like I do a whole lot of drugs and all this other stuff. And the only thing I ever do is occasionally smoke marijuana. And I will openly admit it and think it should be legal in all 50 states. But Axel has fought his demons. He has fought it off. But his drug habits and things that he had in his life have nothing to do with his body injuries that he is suffering through and going through right now. And people need to give this guy a break. He has done so much for wrestling and the love of wrestling that people will never know. He's fought some demons and he's probably blown more shots than many guys ever deserve. But he loves this business. He has given his life to this business. He has given his body to this business. But when I met Axel, when I was 20 years old, so I think he was 19, he was already walking with a hunch. He was already walking with his back bent over, So, I mean, for 23 years, he's put up with that pain. And eventually his body gave out on him. And people should really realize that and appreciate that this guy went out there and gave it everything he had every time he had the opportunity to. And I've been a hard ass on him. I really have. There's been some time points that I was like, lose my phone number, forget I'm alive. I'm tired of this. But this guy has struggled. He has fought back. He has beat one of the most hardest addictions there is to beat in heroin. He's openly talked about that. I think it's like 92% of people that ever become addicted to heroin always resort back to it. I mean, he's beaten this. So give him a break and know that this guy is a gentle giant of our industry without a whole lot of recommendation.
He's a great dude. We enjoyed talking to him a couple of weeks ago. Hey, Will, what you got?
I was going to actually to mention something like that, but I will say this, Ian, not getting to your personal business, whatever, and you are, you can never be accused of hiding behind, the internet, whatever. I am a faithful reader of your blog and stuff. But as a younger guy in this wrestling business, need to ask you this. With all the controversy surrounding Hulk Hogan and the past controversies with Jessica Havoc losing her opportunity to be in WWE, what is your opinion about guys who make mistakes in the past and then their mistakes being brought to the forefront when it seems like they're on the cusp of doing great things? Do you personally think that, we should forgive and forget? Or do you think that guys should be more aware of their surroundings and especially in this day and age where cell phones and cameras everywhere, should guys in this business be more aware of their social media presence? Well, I mean, first thing I have to say with that is, the ESPN comment of, Monday Night Football. Come on, man. The wrestling business for however long was the good old boy network. It was just as bad as NASCAR, or otherwise things like Ron Simmons beating Vader for the title, or Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas beating the Wild Samoans for the title, tag team titles wouldn't have been such a big thing. Oh my God, there's a black world champion, there's a black's world tag team champions, and things of that nature. It's the wrestling business. We come up from carnies. We come up from a time period of, telling a guy, hey, I'll give you an extra $500 if this fan gets in the ring and you break his leg. And to go as far as to throw arguably the greatest attraction in our business out of the Hall of Fame and Hulk Hogan over some comments that he have made, or that he made. Period. It is just ridiculous. If you don't think Vince McMahon has ever said the N-word, you're nuts. If you think Stephanie McMahon has never said the N-word, you're nuts. If you think Triple H has never said the N-word, you're nuts. There's going to be discretions in the wrestling business. We are politically incorrect to begin with. I mean, how many years did a white guy headbutt a black guy and sell it that it hurt his head? I mean, it's come to a point now that the wrestling business is supposed to be politically correct because it's $1 billion company. That's sports entertainment for you. That's not professional wrestling. I don't necessarily agree that it's right. I mean, the last 2 IWA World Champions have been African American. But I don't think people realize that this is wrestling. We do things to the stereotype. I mean, Kamala's from the jungle. I mean, Hillbilly Jim is a dumb redneck. I hope you get my point out of it.
No, Ian, I'm sorry. Ian, I got one more question before you leave. A couple weeks ago, like Rick and Zane told you, we interviewed your brother Axel Rotten. And it was right around the anniversary of your famous yet infamous Taipei death match. It's been 20 years since that match. What are your memories about that match, and how do you feel that it should be and will be remembered in the history of professional wrestling?
Now, hang on. Before Ian answers this question, Ian Rotten is not going yet. I'm not even done with him yet, Will.
Okay. Well, how I feel about it is, we did something that nobody else was willing to do. We were willing to take it to the extreme, to bring the Japanese deathmatch style of wrestling to ECW. Nobody else was willing to do that. Public Enemy wasn't willing to do it. The Gangsters weren't willing to do it. It was Axel versus Ian Rotten that was willing to do it. And the fact that On Point Wrestling in New Jersey is paying tribute to this match August 29th with Matt Tremont versus Jeff Cannonball, it is something really cool as far as the way I look at things. I'm going to be a special guest referee for this match, and to still be paying quote unquote tribute to a match. You don't see anybody paying tribute to the 20th anniversary of Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, or and any of that stuff, or even any of the Guerrero Malenko classics. Not that anybody can do what Guerrero Malenko did. But the fact that there's somebody out there that wants to pay tribute to that is absolutely exceptional. And I think me and Axel are both proud of what we've done as far as that point's concerned. Now, the thing about that match is that makes it so special is we knew how awesome the fans in Philly were. Even to do Taipei Death 2 when they started doing all the reunion shows and things like that of that nature. When me and Axel did that, I literally told him, and he was in a drug-induced stage. I was like, bro, we have to go out there. We have a huge legacy to follow from the first match we did. We have to go out there and do something special. And it's always been that willing desire to give. If you pay $20 to see me, I want you to feel that you should have paid $40. If you pay $25 to see me, I want you to say that you should have paid $50. You know, I always wanted to give you double your money's worth. And that was Axel's attitude a lot of times too. Sometimes it wasn't, but a lot of times it was. You know, and we went out there and gave it everything we had. I mean, I got hard weighed all over the place. Todd Page had too. You know, because I wanted to go out there and give people something to remember, something that. You know, when you have Terry Funk, Sabu, and the Dudleys come out to watch the big screen to figure out why the crowd's going ape shits, you're doing something right.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show with the undisputed king of hardcore himself, Ian Rotten. You know, we threw this question towards Axel as well. Obviously, you're not ashamed of being a hardcore wrestler, but
no, absolutely not.
Misconception has always been with hardcore wrestlers that they can't wrestle. Does that bother you?
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, I have a extensive amateur background. I have a brown belt in judo. You know, I mean, I was never. And when Axel taught me to wrestle, he never said, "Hey, this is how you swing a chair. Hey, this is how you wrap a baseball bat in ball wire." You know, this is how you glue glass to your hands. You know, I mean, I was taught to be, you know, a professional wrestler. You know, but the thing was, like I said, my definition of hardcore wrestling has always been, you know, you wrestle the same in front of 30, 300, 3,000, so on and so on. But the most important thing out of that is you give everything you got, no matter what your quest is, be given to you by a promoter. You know, so when Paulie said, "Hey, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this strap match, and you're going to do this barbed wire bat match, and you're going to do this match that's got weapons in all these chairs and wrapped in barbed wire and all this stuff," I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to do it the best I can. You know, I'm going to watch the people that have done it before me." And, you know, I'm going to do it the best I can. I'll never forget coming through the curtain at the ECW arena after the first barbed wire bat match and Terry Funk going, "You stupid son of a bitches, you're not supposed to hit each other with a bat that damn much." You know, you know, but we didn't know no better. We thought, you know, the Japanese. I don't want to ruin my chances of getting in the WWE Hall of Fame. The Japanese, you know, didn't use the weapons that were afforded to them enough. Me and Axel thought, well, this sucks. You know, these guys aren't using these weapons. You know, so we went out there and used these weapons, and that were given to us, and you know, we thought that was the way it was supposed to be done. You know, so we quote unquote Americanized, you know, the Japanese death match.
So I'm trying to figure out, Ian, which is tougher, the Type A death match or being a promoter. What made you decide to get into promoting after all these years of wrestling hardcore matches?
Well, in 1996, which means I only had been in the business 6 years, I started a hotline when I moved to Louisville, Kentucky. I met the girl that would go on to be my wife and the mother of my children, wrestling for USWA at the Louisville Gardens, and I wound up eventually moving to Louisville. And I started a hotline just to you know, try to sell some old ECW tapes of mine. Really was the reason behind it, you know. And every Tuesday night, I would go to the Louisville Gardens and I would hand out flyers for my hotline. And after the show, I would have to empty my hotline 2 and 3, 4 times, with people going, "Man, USWA has gone so far downhill. I wish we had some of that ECW shit. You know, I wish we had some of that ECW." And literally, I had heard that the people that were running the old Kmart building, the Derby Sports Arena, were unhappy with the crowds that Danny Davis was drawing with Ohio Valley Wrestling. And I went there. I told them, "Look, I'm young. I'm hungry. I just had a baby. I'm looking to feed my family, and I'd like a shot at this. And and they gave me a shot. So I thought the thing to do was to bring in the ECW style of wrestling to the area, and one of the most famous matches ever in USWA's history was the Tupelo, Mississippi concession stand brawl, and so if they like things like that with Eddie Gilbert, running Jerry Lawler over with cars and all this other stuff and things like that, I thought, well, hell, they'll love this. So, my very first show, I had 911 on the show, and I had Flyboy Rocco Rock, the late great Ted Petty, and we did Taipei Death, Pits of Glass, and all kinds of stuff, and crazy things like that, and we went from 99 the first night on October 10th, 1996 to over 300 people on Thanksgiving night of 1996. And, I was able to start taking some of the USWA people. A lot of people don't realize that I'm a historian of our wrestling business. Literally I understood what took out Bill Watts' UWF was WCW taking all the talent. And between WCW and WWE taking DiBiase and Duggan, and WCW taking Sting and
Dr. Death.
Dr. Death, right? That was literally what put out one of the best wrestling federations that there ever was. So I thought, well, I'll take Doug Gilbert if I can. I'll take Tommy Wildfire Rich. I'll take PG-13. I'll take Dutch Mantell. I'll take Stephen Dunn. And I start being able to pay these guys in one night what they were making in a week because I had beer sales in this old Kmart building. And I was able to take a whole lot of the USWA talent. And, eventually, USWA went out of business, because of it. And, really the only top talent that I never took from Lawler was his own kid. I didn't take Brian Christopher. And I really didn't whip the prick. So.
Okay, Ian, we're running out of time, so I got to get you one last question. And I want you to be honest with us on this question here, because this is a tough one. For those who've been around the wrestling business, a lot of people are familiar with the public beating you've been taking in the last couple of years, but I don't get to hear what Ian Rotten has to think and what he has to say. I'm not a person who draws opinion on anything until I've heard both sides. You have the floor, Ian. What do you say about all those people who bash on you as a promoter?
Well, I've never been one of those guys that drew 1,700, 2,000 people and bounced a check on somebody. And you tell me to be honest, and I say, hey man, I'm not lying. When you have 19 years of running business, you are going to have some disgruntled employees. But it makes me laugh when people throw out there that I say, hey, I'll pay you with a Mountain Dew and a hot dog. There have been some situations that, that I'm not proud of, that, I thought we should have drawn better than we did. And that's really my fault as a professional wrestler and somebody that's been in the industry as long as I have, that when running the show, I didn't have all the money up front in case the crowd wasn't there. But literally, know this, that I love this business more than 99.9% of the people in it. I've loved it from the time I was 4 years old. I certainly didn't, do a lot of the things that have been put on me. Sometimes I haven't made payroll. But I'm not the only promoter that's ever done that. It amazes me when people say, well, Ian says, they're going out of business, and then we don't. Well, part of that problem is people don't understand that they want to say, well, how do they survive with 60, 70 people crowds? Well, that's the point. We can't survive with 60, 70 people crowds. Eventually, we are going to go out of business. But as soon as I say we're going out of business, I'm a carny, and I'm just trying to make people give me money. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. Bar none, one of the biggest things that's ever said about me is, how has he come up with all these incredible matches? IWA has probably had more matches that are known in the indies than any other company, with maybe the exception of Ring of Honor and maybe the exception of PWG. But I mean, we've had those stellar matches, the Necro Butcher, Samoa Joe, all that other stuff. How does Ian Rotten come up with that? I'm a wrestling fan. I want to see these matches. That's why I have them, and I love professional wrestling. Even commercials are making fun of nowadays of how the internet. You can't believe everything on the internet that you read. Don't believe everything on the internet. Believe your personal experience with me, and when you've met me or done business with me.
Ian, I really appreciate your honesty. Okay, we've got to wrap up, Ian. You've got 30 seconds. What do you want to talk about? What do you got going on? How can fans get a hold of you? Where is your event this Sunday?
You can get me on Facebook at my real name, John Williams. I accept everybody. I don't care whether you hate me, love me, or despise me. We are in Charlestown, Indiana at the American Legion Hall this Sunday with a great card. Tickets only $10 for adults, $5 for children. And remember, IWA Midsouth, it's a place for professional wrestling. It still lives.
Ian, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I absolutely had a great time with you tonight. Hopefully you can join us again, and Zane and I
anytime.
Take a trip down south and come and see you.
You guys hit me up, and I'll be more than happy to be here. Take care.
Thanks, bud.
Bye-bye.
The Undisputed King of Hardcore, Ian Rotten with us tonight, the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Will Huckabee, your thoughts?
Man, you know what? This interview was so great. I love Ian Rotten. I love Axel Rotten. He's so upcoming. He's so forthright. Like I told him, he would never be accused of, hiding behind the internet. I love the fact that he's so upfront and honest about everything in his life and stuff. And the fact that him and Axel, despite all the little tips that friends and family members and people who are close to their family members have, the fact that we interviewed Axel and then we interviewed Ian, and they both had, they made sure that they put each other over, really says a lot about them as friends and about them as men in general outside of the wrestling business.
And fully admitting that, like brothers, they go to war with each other. So, I mean, it happens. So, VP, your thoughts, buddy?
I thought it was great. He's very charismatic, and he answered all the questions that we asked, and I thought some of his opinions about some of the WWE workers and the state of professional wrestling today, I thought a lot of them were spot on. He's a very smart guy.